This is a Chris Combs production.
Thanks for joining me in my corner today. This one is heavy. This one isn't easy, and this one hits different. As a father, this one hits a bit hard. I'm speaking about Charlie Hinnant. Charlie Hinnant was 5 years old. He was a baby. He was a child. His life was ripped from this earth unnecessarily by his neighbor, someone who probably saw him every day, but who was filled with such evil that he didn't see the innocence in this poor child. For those who are unaware, let me fill you in. Cannon and his brother and sister were outside riding bikes and playing just like normal children do on a Sunday evening, when their neighbor, 25-year-old Darius Sessions, walked up and shot the 5-year-old in the head. Cannon's father was inside, heard the gunshot, and rushed to his side, as Sessions walked to his car and drove off. Cannon was taken to a nearby hospital where later that night, he died from his injuries. Sessions was located and arrested the next day and charged with Cannon's murder. This is, and I'm sorry, Mom, a fucked up situation. This kid had his whole life ahead of him. As a father myself, I couldn't begin to fathom what's going through the mind of Cannon's father, when a man he literally sat next to and drank beers with after inviting him over the night before, woke up the next day and took the life of his youngest child. But let me address something that I'm noticing that's becoming a trend on social media that's becoming, and I'm sorry, Mom, just as fucked up. I can't help but notice the comparisons of Cannon's death to that of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. And let me explain why you can shut the hell up with your false outrage in that regard. There isn't a single justification for any of these deaths. Each one is its own different way, and it highlights just how dark society can be and how the world around us actually is. See, Cannon should be alive. George should be alive. Breonna Taylor should be alive. However, when I see posts like, "His life mattered," "Justice for Cannon," "Say his name," "Why isn't the media talking about this?" I can't help but immediately identify where that's coming from and doubt its sincerity. You see, you don't need to say justice for Cannon. His murderer was arrested and charged the very next day. His murderer didn't have a police force create a barricade around his house for protection to make sure he ate. It didn't take an All Lives Matter or Save the Children's movement to go marching in the streets for him to be arrested. His murderer wasn't allowed to hide behind a badge that grants him certain protections and qualified immunity. No one is digging into his background, pulling up all the timeouts he's received or been suspended from kindergarten to justify his murder. No. He isn't getting the 12-year-old Tamir Rice or 16-year-old Trayvon Martin treatment. No one needs to put up billboards or create hashtags on social media to get justice. Cannon's murderer, rightfully so, isn't walking around. He's behind bars where he deserves to be. You don't need to say his life mattered because no one is saying it didn't. I have yet to see a single person see that hashtag and go, "All children's lives matter." But I can't help but notice where all these hashtags being associated with the story actually originated from. Is this because a child was murdered senselessly, or because a white child was killed by a black man, so you see this as an opportunity to attack the Black Lives Matter movement? I ask that because I don't really recall too many people being upset over Jordan Davis or Elijah Alamin. Don't know who they are? I figured. See, those are two kids, two black males, teenagers, who were killed over their rap music being too loud in two separate incidents in two different states. Or how about 7-year-old Joshua Vallow and 17-year-old Tylee Ryan? Those were the step-siblings whose mother and father moved to Hawaii after their disappearances. Their bodies were found on their father's property a couple months ago. Why the silence? Where's the outrage? Where were the hashtags? So let's be real with ourselves and say that if this was a black kid, hypothetical argument, because if it was, we see multiple stories on how it was maybe justified because his father had a friend who played basketball at the park with the guy whose cousin shot JFK. If you know, you know. So stop. You can advocate for justice for Cannon without the passive-aggressive or direct attacks on the Black Lives Matter movement. They aren't the same. And if you'd like to debate me on it, well, you're watching this, so you know how to reach me. And oh, for the love of God, please arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor. Please.